this unproven guy going to be as good as Duke Johnson? My knee-jerk reaction is no. And, if they prove me wrong, I'll say it then. But, it's hard to predict greatness for someone you've never watched play in college.
As long as Knighton and Chaney score touchdowns, that's the only thing I care about, and Miami wins a game. Yep. I don't care if they even sniff what Duke Johnson was able to do statistically.
Yeah.
I just want them to help win games and run the hell over people and past people and do what they came here to do. We didn't recruit these guys to be a Duke Johnson. We recruited them to help the Miami Hurricanes win games and be a part of, a Rhett Lashley system.
Yep.
So.
I'm with you, man.
People are probably going to disagree with me on that, but that's how I feel.
Well, just let it all out, man. We're here for you.
Oh, I let it out most days on Twitter.
Oh, man. Okay, let's see. Okay, so Gunner again says, who are your realistic top targets for the class of 2021? So I'm not great with the names yet. I know a few. I know that wide receiver kid. What's his name? Like Jacoby
George.
Yep, that's what I was gonna say. I just didn't want to look down. Like he's been working out with our receivers. I know him. I know of guys more so than I know their names off the top of my head. But I will say, like, if we don't just hammer O-line, wide receivers, and corners, I'm just gonna lose my freaking mind.
Well, I mean, we've started very well on offensive line, at least.
Yeah.
I really like
the beast, dude.
Yeah, and if you would be like top 5 most realistic, or top 3 most realistic receivers, because there's so many realistic people that we're gonna sign.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think receivers is a huge, not need almost, but the talent and incredible prospects just in South Florida at the wide receiver position in 2021 class, it's insane. And we have to take advantage of that. We have to get a guy like Jacoby George. We have to, it would be great if we could get a guy like Romello Brinson. So there's so many of those guys.
I think almost half the class, so I'm talking 10 to 12 guys, should be from those 3 position groups. That should be half our class, is wide receivers, O-linemen, and corners. Because we are so thin, paper thin. I guess at wide receiver, if Jeremiah Payton is a freshman All-American, then we can talk about it at that point. Then we won't be thin. As it stands now, though, we are paper thin at those 3 positions. We are not.
I would say, but we lose Harley after this year at receiver. Wiggins and Pope both come back. I mean, and we have 4, 5 freshman receivers.
Yeah.
So I mean, so we're a lot more paper thin at the cornerback position.
Yeah.
Cornerback is
I guess I mean our production, or in terms of production, we're paper thin. We have a lot of unproven guys, but man, I hate betting on unproven guys.
I mean, people get mad at me all the time because I talk down on Mark Pope. I'm like, give me one reason why I should believe that he's going to be the next star at receiver for Miami. Give me one good reason.
If we're going into not this season but the following year, and we're like, hey, our starters are Xavier Restrepo and Mark Pope, and it's like, well, Restrepo redshirted last year, and Mark Pope only had 400 yards. So what am I supposed to get excited about?
Yeah. I mean, these guys aren't going to light up college football.
Yeah, and not that I'm betting against any of those guys, but, if that's what you're throwing at me is like a wide receiver rotation of guys that combined for 1,400 yards in their whole career, then I'm not going to be very happy about it. I'm not going to praise the recruiting and just be like, oh, dude, we're so loaded. We got so many 4-star guys. It's like, well, guess what? they've combined to catch 80 passes between all 7 of them.
Yeah,
So,
and our offense sucked. Too many Canes fans carry on expectations for players throughout their college careers just because of where they went to high school, what their high school ranking was. They don't care as much about college production, and it baffles me so much. Like, I ask people all the time, why do you think Mark Pope is going to be this good? He goes like, oh, I just remember him at Southridge. I mean, he was just so good. I'm like, well, damn, I wasn't bad in high school football. Like, show me something in college that makes you actually believe that would make me believe that he's going to do anything. Pope's like 170 pounds.
Yep. Yeah.
Like, if that's why, like, D. Wiggins at least has made some plays that I can say, okay, here's what he can do.
Yes. Yeah. D. Wiggins was great last year. I have no complaints with him. I think. Well, so last year we really needed a guy to step up, and Mike Harley stepped up, and D. Wiggins stepped up, and Pope was languishing on the bench. I mean, we lost both of our starters from the year before. Pope had every opportunity. All of these guys had every opportunity. We brought in a grad transfer, and then I mean, it's not like anyone blew the doors off for that wide receiver 2 spot.
No,
like,
I love this topic because I can just rant for days. It pisses me off because people do not like D. Wiggins because he had a few drops his freshman season, but they love Pope because of what he did in high school. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, you're not wrong, and it sounds really stupid when you put it like that, but it's true.
People look at Mark Pope doing workouts in a sand trap and say, "Oh, he's gonna have a huge year." Okay, you don't think the other players are doing that too? Like, Mark Pope's just videotaping it.
Yeah. No,
I'm sorry. I think that's one of the best points I've made on this podcast. Like,
no, you're right. You're 100% right, and I don't think either of us are bashing Mark Pope, because if he busts out and has like 1,000 yards and is a Bolitnikov finalist, we're both going to be singing his praises and love him and just be so happy for him and be like, it looks like the sand trap thing worked out or whatever. Like, it's not that we don't like Mark Pope, it's that we're not buying into something without any substance yet.
Exactly.
It's just stupid.
I mean, there's so many Hurricane players that people just drool over because you went to St. Thomas Aquinas. He's from South Florida. He was a 4-star. He turned down Alabama for us, but I mean, he hasn't done anything his first 2 years, but like, we still think he's going to be a breakout star. They will say that Mark Pope is their breakout star next year.
Yeah.
Like, they'll keep saying the same thing because they want to keep believing what they saw 4 years ago when Pope was being recruited.
I'll take 1,000 Braxton Berrioses and and KJ Osborne's over one Mark Pope.
Absolutely, dude.
Oh, wait, let me reverse that. I'll take one KJ Osborne or Braxton Berrios over 1,000 Mark Popes. And I'll take that back if Pope shows out this year. But I'm just using him to symbolize what you're talking about. The 5-star kid that really hasn't done much, and people are still just
post a video of him working out so he can please fans. Like, Braxton Berrios probably outworked Pope 100 times. He didn't post anything. Like,
yeah.
I don't know why I'm just going off on like the current Hurricanes right now. Like, I just have so much to say.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Dude, so I guess you're right. We have better depth at wide receiver. It's just unproven, and that scares the living daylights out of me, because I'm not gonna get excited if I can't get excited even if we're like, oh, Jeremiah Payton, he's our number 1 this year, he's gonna be huge. It's like, yeah, I hope that happens, But I'm not going to sign up for season tickets telling me that a guy that's never played before is going to be our go-to guy.
Yeah, like,
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, people are saying how good he's going to be because he was the scout team player of the year last year.
Yeah. And
But
that's all.
people won't give D. Wiggins any credit because he dropped a pass against Virginia Tech his freshman season.
Yeah. No, dude,
Why are we so much smarter than everyone?
I know, right?
Ugh.
That's why we have a podcast, Marsh.
Yes, this is true. And that's why people listen, because we have these opinions.
You mean not opinions, Marsh, they're answers. We don't have opinions, we have facts and answers.
Yes. You're darn right we do. Gosh. Ugh.
Okay. What will it take? Okay, this is from Brian Correa. Okay. So what will it take for the Canes to beat Clemson and enter the college football playoff? Well, I don't mean any disrespect, Brian. However, we are light years away from Clemson right now. Like, light years. Like, call me in 5 years after we have gotten top 7 recruiting classes every single season and we have the best football coach in the country, or in the top 2. And we have back-to-back quarterbacks in Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence. I guess there was that other dude in there for a season, but you know what I mean. We're light years from Clemson.
Yeah, they just jumped so far ahead in expectations.
Oh, yeah.
Can we beat Duke first? Can we win a Coastal first? Like, Clemson is at the very top of the college football world. There's a pile of dirt at the bottom, and then there's shit 5 feet below that, and that's where we are right now.
Yeah. Well, you got to remember, so when was Taj Boyd a thing? Was that like 2011 and 12?
Yeah.
I think that was when I was in high school, right? Because he was the QB when they were playing like Jameis Winston and those great games, the Clemson versus Florida State. So they were ahead of us 6 and 7 years ago and 8 years ago, and they've been progressing ever since. So let's rewind 8 years back. They're still at like way ahead of where we are. You know, they're probably like where the Florida Gators are right now, where they're going to a New Year's Six Bowl every year. In their conference championship, they're pulling great recruiting classes, putting elite guys like Sammy Watkins into the NFL. Like, so they're ahead of us that long ago, and they've gotten better every season. So, I mean, it would take a drastic shift. I mean, if we win 11 games next season, then we're where Clemson was 8 years ago, and we got to keep getting better every season for the next 8 years to get where Clemson is.
They just jump ahead to these conclusions. Like, we shouldn't even be in the same sentence as Clemson. Like,
well, I mean, look what happens when we tried to play them, dude. We got thumped. We got freaking thumped in the ACC championship, and that was by far the best Canes team since like 2004.
Yeah.
And we got obliterated by them.
See, like, this is the kind of stuff I like because I disagree with Canes fans and they hate me for it, but they know I'm right.
Yeah.
They just want to believe, and I do think, like I said, I think the Hurricanes will be 9-3 this year. I think we can absolutely do that. But
and
to even
get obliterated by Clemson.
Yeah, but to even think we could even compete with a team like Clemson. Like, we have so many obstacles before that.
Yeah.
Like, where's the humility in Canes fans? Come on.
I'm not a Miami native, but there's nothing about what I've observed and learned about Miami culture. There is nothing that even resembles humility about Miami culture from my observation.
Until I started going off on. I mean, there's a few people on there. Canes fans are just so, and I love them. I am a Hurricanes fan. Like, nobody supports the Canes more than I do. Yeah. But But the majority of Canes fans are so delusional that it creates just such a false sense of